What's up guys, BrunsNick's back, and today we're going to talk about benchmark bowling balls. Yes, you may have already heard this term, benchmark ball, but what exactly does it mean? Today we're going to talk about the characteristics of a benchmark ball, what it does on the lanes, and what you should look for when trying to select your own benchmark ball. Now before we get to all that, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Now, let's talk about benchmark bowling balls. All right, we're talking about benchmark balls. That's a term that goes around a little bit too loosely these days, I think. So we're gonna break down what exactly is a benchmark ball and what it does on the lanes and what you should look for when trying to pick one. Simple enough, right? So typically, benchmark bowling balls are going to be solid resin. You typically don't hear benchmarks as pearl, skid flip type bowling balls. They're referring to the cover stock being benchmark as a solid resin. So whether it be asymmetric, like this hitter from Radical, or symmetrical, like this Sensor Solid. So these are two different bowling balls, one symmetric, one asymmetric. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit and why that might matter. So we're gonna start with the asymmetric ball. We're gonna throw a couple shots and we're just gonna talk about it, okay? So the first thing we talk about with benchmark bowling balls as far as reaction go is the smoother ball reaction shape. It's going to be a more gradual hook motion throughout the whole lane, nothing that is going to be too skid flippy. So if the ball is still skidding and it hooks at the very end of the pattern and comes out of the pattern sideways, that is not a benchmark bowling ball. So with the hitter, it is a medium range asymmetrical ball that is meant to blend out wet, dry patterns, especially when they're fresh and heavy. And I got a ball return. So another characteristic of a good benchmark ball is going to be the duller surface prep. You're going to see more of the matte finish and the dull finish balls, 500, 2000, 500, 1000. Doesn't really matter, but typically the ball is not shiny. So what this allows you to do is to create a smoother ball motion because it's going to dig through the oil a little bit sooner and smooth out the break point. Great ball reaction when the lanes are fresh. You want that ball to be a gradual motion. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the properties of a benchmark ball. A good benchmark ball is a ball that's going to keep you in the pocket, especially when the lanes get tough. It's going to keep you in the pocket. So especially like in a tougher tournament where they might be a little flatter, giving up the pocket is not going to help you out early on in the tournament. If you're there getting 5 count, 6 count, and weird splits because your ball is going each way, you know, you probably need a benchmark ball in your hand. Gradual motion, easy to read. I'm not trying to create a lot of entry angle with this ball. But what a good benchmark ball also can do for you is be good from multiple angles. So right now I'm playing them pretty straight. If I switch back to the asymmetrical hitter, should I be able to move in and hook it a little bit? Let's see. Move about 4 with my feet here. That almost struck. So now the only downside to benchmark bowling balls, right, is as the lanes start to break down, you may not be able to move in and chase the oil as much as you can with a benchmark type ball. They use all their motion and all their performance in the mid-range, giving you a good control. But as you start to open up your angles, you might find that your hitting power goes down a little bit because the ball is just a little bit out of energy when it enters the pocket. So let's try that again. I'm going to try to maybe swing it just a little bit more and keep my speed down. go. So slow hooking it does work. It's good from multiple angles. I could also take this ball, move back right, and play more up the boards. Now, should my benchmark ball be asymmetrical or symmetrical? Well, in a way it doesn't really matter. Now, if you are more speed dominant, if you have more speed than revs, if you typically play a little straighter for longer, but your ball speed's a lot higher, I'm gonna tell you probably asymmetrical ball should be your benchmark ball. Something like hitter. There's other bowling balls in the market that do something similar. So I'm gonna move it back right and play them straighter now with this ball. So another great characteristic of a good benchmark ball is its ability to react differently to different hand positions and tweaks. Changes in ball speed, changes in mark, changes in launch angle. All these things the ball needs to be responsive to, not over responsive. Now when I moved in and tried to slow hook it, the ball didn't just jump off the spot there. It was still very gradual, easy to control. That's what we want from a benchmark bowling ball. Oh. So that's what's great about benchmark bowling balls. For some, you may never have to switch out of a benchmark ball. If you're bowling in league, you know, you stay in that same zone, you make a little bit of adjustment throughout the night, but you could pretty much stay in a ball like this for 3 games, no problem. Just by making small adjustments with your feet, your speed, and your rotation. That's all there is about benchmark bowling balls. Now, if you're lined up and striking with a benchmark ball, that's when bowling becomes boring, right? And let me tell you, the most boring nights of bowling lead to the highest scores possible. Typically, you never hear someone shooting a high 800 series and they had to move their feet 20 boards and change balls 3 times. No, typically they stayed with the same ball all 3 games and maybe moved a little bit throughout the night, but they pretty much had what's called as the nuts. So, if any questions about benchmark bowling balls, hope you guys learned a little bit throughout this video, but that's my take on what makes a great benchmark bowling ball. If you have any questions, put them down below, and if this video was helpful, please subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.